Blood dripped from her temple as she staggered into the gleaming lobby of Riverside General ER. Instead of care, a nurse sneered, blocking her path. "We don't treat people like you here." With a shove, she was cast back into the cold night while patients and staff stared, some laughing, others filming. Humiliated, bleeding, left to suffer, her cries went unanswered. What no one knew was that the woman they had just thrown out was married to the hospital's chief of medicine. The automatic doors of Riverside General ER slid open with a mechanical hiss as Adrian Carter stumbled in, her blouse stained with blood from a gash along her temple. She had been in a car accident just blocks away. Each step left faint smears across the white tile floor, yet her eyes held steady resolve. She needed help, and quickly. Instead of rushing forward, Nurse Colleen Harris glared from behind the check-in desk, her arms crossed. "Insurance card," she demanded, her tone more accusation than request. Danielle pressed a trembling hand to her wound. "Please, I just need a doctor." Colleen's lips curled into a sneer. "People like you always say that. You think this is charity? Prove you can pay, or get out." Heads turned. A couple waiting with their child gasped. Phones tilted upward. "I was in a crash," Danielle whispered. "I need stitches." Colleen stood, her voice sharp enough to pierce the entire lobby. "You heard me. Get out!" Then in one swift motion, she shoved Danielle backward. She stumbled, crashing against the wall. Blood streaked down her cheek. Gasps echoed. A teenager filming whispered, "She just shoved her." From an office doorway, Supervisor Mark Ellis emerged. Instead of helping, he doubled down. "Colleen's right. We don't deal with scammers. Ma'am, you need to leave before we call security." Danielle steadied herself, humiliation burning hotter than the pain. She pulled a folded insurance card from her wallet and placed it on the counter with shaking fingers. Mark didn't even look at it. Could be fake. Laughter rippled from the far corner. A man muttered, "Guess first class isn't the only place they don't belong." Danielle's knees wobbled, but she refused to collapse. She glanced at the cameras, dozens of them now glowing red, recording everything. Her voice came low but resolute. "Every second of this will be seen." Colleen rolled her eyes. By who? No one cares. But she was wrong. Minutes later, the sound of hurried footsteps cut through the tension. The lobby parted as Dr. Adrian Carter, Chief of Emergency Medicine, strode in, his white coat unbuttoned, his face stricken at the sight of his wife crumpled against the wall. "Danielle," he breathed, rushing forward. He cupped her face gently, inspecting the wound. "Who did this to you?" She lifted her eyes toward Colleen. The nurse. They all watched. Adrian's jaw clenched, fury darkening his eyes. He rose, his voice slicing the room. "You laid hands on a patient in my hospital?" The color drained from Colleen's face. I didn't know she was with you." Adrian cut her off. "You didn't need to know. She came here bleeding, and you humiliated her." Mark stepped forward, blustering. "Chief Carter, surely there's a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Adrian snapped. "I saw enough on the recordings." He gestured toward the crowd of phones still filming. "And so will the world." Gasps swept the room as whispers spread. "She's his wife. He's the chief." Adrian turned back to Danielle, kneeling beside her. He pulled gloves from his pocket and began treating her wound right there in the lobby. Each motion deliberate, each stitch a silent indictment against those who had failed her. The crowd pressed closer, murmuring. One woman whispered, "He's the chief of the whole ER." Colleen's hands trembled. "Please, sir, Adrian stood abruptly, voice booming like thunder. "You're finished here. Effective immediately, you are terminated. Hand over your badge." Mark sputtered, sweat beading his brow. "You can't." Adrian's eyes burned into him. "And you, covering up her behavior, threatening to call security instead of helping? You're suspended pending investigation. Phones caught every word. Live streams flooded with comments. This is unreal. Justice in real time. Riverside's chief just fired staff on the spot. Danielle, her wound bandaged now, stood with dignity intact. Her voice, calm but commanding, cut through the chaos. For too long, people like me come here needing care and leave with scars, not just on our bodies, but on our dignity. Tonight it ends. The lobby erupted in applause. Adrian raised his hand for silence. Effective today, Riverside will implement immediate reforms, patient advocates at every desk, mandatory bias training for all staff, and security cameras reviewed weekly by independent auditors. No more excuses. Reporters who had gathered outside pushed in, cameras flashing. One asked, "Mrs. Carter, how do you feel after tonight?" Danielle's answer was steady, humiliated, hurt, but not defeated. Because when arrogance meets truth, arrogance always falls. The footage went viral overnight. #RiversideJustice trended worldwide. Networks replayed the moment Colleen shoved Danielle, followed by Adrian's thunderous verdict. Protests erupted, demanding systemic reform not just at Riverside, but across hospitals nationwide. Within weeks, Riverside became a national model. Patient complaints dropped. Advocacy groups praised the sweeping changes. Colleen vanished from the profession, her license revoked. Mark resigned quietly, his career in ruins. 6 months later, Danielle stood beside Adrian at a medical conference in Washington, unveiling a national initiative for hospital accountability. Their program mandated transparency, equity, and zero tolerance for discrimination in healthcare facilities across the country. Adrian addressed the crowd. What happened that night wasn't just about one nurse or one patient. It was about a culture that allowed arrogance to replace compassion. That culture dies here. Danielle's words followed, each syllable steady. I was bleeding, and they threw me out. But the wound that night became the seed of change. Dignity may bend, but it does not break. And when it rises, it transforms everything it touches. The audience rose to its feet in thunderous applause. Doctors, nurses, patients, and policymakers stood united, inspired. Back at Riverside, the walls no longer echoed with cruelty, but with healing. And in the city beyond, every hospital boardroom whispered her name. Danielle Carter, the woman once shoved out of an ER, had rewritten the meaning of care. If this story shook you, don't just scroll, stand with us. Like, share, and comment where you're watching from. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss bold, powerful stories of justice, dignity, and shocking reversals.